So what does a political system that's built on divine principles actually look like? Today, we're going to break down the blueprint for governance in Islam. We'll look at its core theories and its very first application in history, all based on the text we're exploring together.
Okay, so right off the bat, our source lays out this fundamental choice, almost like a fork in the road for how we think about power. It presents two completely different views on politics. On one side, you've got what it calls rational politics. These are systems built by us, by human minds. They're aiming for worldly success, but the text argues they're pretty much always going to be biased and flawed. And then on the other side, you have religious politics, a system believed to be ordained by God, aiming for success not just here on Earth, but in the hereafter too. Honestly, this one distinction is the key to understanding everything else we're about to cover.
So before we jump into all the historical events, we really need to get a handle on the theory. What is this divine blueprint that the whole system is supposed to be built on? So, at its core, what is the Islamic political system? Well, the source defines it as a way of managing a state to bring about good things and, prevent bad things from happening. But here's the real kicker. Every single decision, every law, has to operate within the framework of Islamic law, the Sharia. That's the non-negotiable foundation. To really understand this blueprint, the source gives us 5 core features, 5 defining characteristics. So let's dive into each one to see how this system is designed to work, at least in theory. First up is Rabbaniya, which means divinity. And this is the bedrock idea, really. This system's ultimate authority isn't a parliament or a president, it's God. The whole purpose is divine, not just human. And according to the text, that's what makes its core principles supposedly perfect and free from all our very human biases.
Next up, we've got Shumul, and that translates to comprehensiveness. The idea here is that this isn't just a rulebook for politics, it's meant to be a total, all-encompassing system for life, covering everything from a ruler's duties all the way down to how the state should handle its international relations.
Then there's Almaniya, or universality. This principle makes a pretty big claim that the system isn't just for one group of people or one specific time in history. It's presented as being universally applicable and workable for any society, anywhere, at any time. The fourth feature is wasatiyah, which is all about moderation. This one is about finding that perfect balance, that middle path. The system is described as trying to avoid the iron fist of a dictatorship on one end and what it might see as the potential chaos of a totally unrestrained democracy on the other. And finally, we have waqiyya, or realism. And the key takeaway here is that this isn't meant to be some kind of philosophical dream or an unachievable utopia. No, it's presented as a practical, down-to-earth system that's designed to work in the real world, with real people and all their complexities. Okay, so that's the theory. Now let's pivot to the history. How did this blueprint go from just an idea to an actual functioning state? Well, it all kicks off with the journey from Mecca to Medina. You see, as the source tells it, the road to building a state wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate process. It all started in Mecca with this new message and a whole lot of persecution. That pressure led to a huge turning point, the Pledges of Aqaba, where crucial alliances were made with the tribes in Medina. And those alliances made the next big step possible, the Hijra, the migration to Medina. This wasn't just a trip. It was the birth of a political community and the beginning of building a state from scratch. So once in Medina, the source says 3 essential pillars were put in place almost immediately. First, the mosque was built, and this wasn't just a place for prayer. It was the social, political, and spiritual heart of the new community. Second, this powerful bond called muwaqa, or brotherhood, was established. It united the local Medinans with the migrants from Mecca, basically replacing old tribal loyalties with a brand new shared identity. And third, they got down to the nitty-gritty practical work of organizing the state and its defense. Now, after the Prophet's death, the community faced its first major test. This next phase is known as the era of the caliphs, the successors, and the source presents it as the direct continuation of the political model he had established. This quote here from the scholar Ibn Taymiyyah really cuts to the heart of the philosophy. He frames governing not just as some political task, but as one of the greatest religious duties. The logic is pretty straightforward. Without a stable government, neither your faith nor your daily life can really function properly. And this brings us to what might be the most critical question of all. With the state's founder gone, who would take charge? How on earth do you choose the next leader? I mean, seriously think about it.
The answer to this one question would shape the future of the entire community, of everything they had built.
And what's so fascinating is that the source shows there wasn't just one fixed method for choosing a leader. It actually evolved. The first caliph, Abu Bakr, was chosen by a consensus among the community leaders. Then, for his successor, Umar, they used a totally different method. He was appointed directly by Abu Bakr. And when it came time for the third caliph, Uthman, the method changed yet again. He was chosen by a special 6-man committee. Each leader, chosen in a different way, left their own unique mark, from unifying Arabia to setting up the state's entire administration.
But, as the source makes very clear, this early period of unity, well, it didn't last. The era was eventually shattered by what's known as fitna, a really powerful term for internal strife, sedition, and civil discord. This wasn't just a political disagreement. It was a deep and painful conflict that would divide the community for generations.
And all of this leads us to our final big question. We've seen the ideal blueprint and its first messy, real-world test. It brings up a challenge that really every grand idea or political philosophy has to face. How does a perfect theory survive the unpredictable and often brutal reality of human history?